So we're gonna put up a trellis today. I just ordered it on Amazon. It's like that net stuff. So I'm just gonna go up, and then one across, and then probably staple the net in, or it actually comes with zip ties, so maybe I'll zip tie it in. This would have been easier to do when there wasn't stuff in this bed. I'm gonna have to kind of mix up my mixture here, which isn't great, but it'll be all right.
Alright, so we're going to watch this at 10 times speed and just kind of talk over what I'm doing. One tip I have is if you're doing anything by yourself, start your screws. So on that far board when I just put it up, I started my screws and then put it in so I could do it by myself. So this is the net we got. We actually got 16 foot, so we should be able to use this twice. And then I just drilled a hole. The top had a string to tie it in, so I drilled a hole and tied that string in. Now we're just kind of untangling it. I drilled a hole for the other side. But since it's not the right length, we're just going to have to cut it. So there's a string at the top and the bottom to tie on. Also, it said this was a 6.5 foot net, but I'm 6.5 feet tall, and you can see my head is about a foot from the top with that board shoved in there. So it stretches to 7.5 feet. And we maybe will stretch it even harder up and down, but I kind of wanted some room under it for what you'll see later is me working on the dirt. Alright, there's our first zip tie. So that's how we're going to fasten it. It came with some green zip ties. So I'm just going to drill a hole and then zip tie through the hole and grab the net. See, I'm drilling holes and then zip tie, zip tie, zip tie. If you go this route and you buy this net, I would highly recommend buying it to the exact size you need. Because the ends are a nice thick rope where it like all meets. It's all like tied around a rope on the end. So the far side looks great and was easy to zip tie, but this close side, as you're seeing right now, I'm pulling on it and kind of like stretching the individual squares because there's not a nice rope to pull on, and the individual squares are just way weaker. And this is another good tip: don't cut it with scissors. It's a bunch of little ropes, so they're gonna fray. So don't even bother cutting it and then burning the ends. Just burn straight through them, and then they're automatically singed on either end. And then here I'm starting my screws to make it easier. My help isn't quite tall enough, so if I start my screws, then I could get it in there and then come over myself, pull it tight, screw it in there. I did talk about putting some side bracing on there, and I may do that later if I think it's necessary. It's been a couple weeks and our cucumbers are getting bigger, but I don't know if they're ever going to be big enough to really like knock that over. You can see it's kind of flimsy. And then I did the same thing along the top, is just screwed in some pieces. Screwed in. I drilled some holes, put some zip ties in it. And then we're going to prep our bed to plant in. So I'm just spreading some fertilizer out and then kind of breaking the surface up. There was a couple weeds. This bed had been filled for like a week and just left uncovered. So there's a couple weeds to break up, breaking up the dirt clumps, leveling it out, all that stuff. So this bed is for cucumbers. So we're going to plant cucumbers down the middle. I think we have 3 different varieties. I'm not exactly sure what they are. They're just seeds we started a while ago. They're definitely past their prime, but if I've learned something this year, just because we've been behind, like they're starting to yellow and their roots are kind of root bound, but they've taken off. I mean, maybe they had a couple days of transplant shock because of that, but they grew fine. Here you can see us just messing with the dirt. I'm going to water them in. I'm just letting the hot water run off. You don't want to put scalding hot water on your plants. So obviously the hose is just sitting in the sun, so it kind of scalds them. And then we're going to mulch them. Mulch really helps. It seems to really helped everything. We've used it on everywhere this year. I really haven't done that too much in the past couple of years. But it seems to be helping a lot. It keeps the soil temperature down and keeps the moisture in, which both help retain a ton of water. So your plants don't wilt as much in the afternoons, or you don't have to water twice a day. I had that problem in some of my little containers last year. Also, just being in a bed helps, so it's kind of hard to tell which one of those is the huge benefit for us. If they have enough water, water will wick from the area around instead of just relying on water right under it. And then, so I'm just going to talk about what's coming up next. So we're going to be butchering chickens. So if you have any issue, or if you're squeamish, or if you don't want to see that process happen, please click off the video now. I'm going to say it again. If you have any issue with the butchering of chickens and slaughtering of them, please click off the video now. Because we're going to go into making a kill cone, we're going to open our new plucker, we're going to show the setup, and then we're going to get to work. I'm going to show kind of how to slaughter, that whole process, and then butchering, which that could be helpful even if you don't plan on raising your own chickens. The butchering will be relevant to if you just get a chicken in a package from the store. And then I'll put some timestamps in the description for all that stuff. Let's get to it. Alright, so here we're making a kill cone or hugging cone. You really want to use these when you're dispatching your chickens because it'll keep them from flapping around too much. It's going to happen some, they're going to have death throes, it happens. But it severely reduces it, and it also makes them pretty calm while you're doing what you need to do to them. So that's why people call them hugging cones too. It's just like when you pick up a chicken, if you just kind of hold them tight and hug them, they seem to really relax a lot. Alright, now that we got our kill cone made, we're going to hang it up. So we're just going to use this streak and just kind of screw it on here. I mean, a good spot right there. Maybe. I'll get it started. That'll be a little easier. Okay. And then I also got a bucket to go under it. And then we'll just screw this, kind of hold it. Well, maybe we don't need to on this one. Nah, we will. I'll screw this bucket in place below it so it stays. Got it right there. Okay, kill them, and their blood will drain. I tried to put some shavings in here to kind of absorb the blood, because when we did it last time it just kind of gets a little gross. That might help, but now on to the next thing. Alright, so my wife bought this plucker from the last time we did it. We did 5 as a test run, and now we're doing the rest of them. And it kind of sucks plucking them by hand, so we got this Yardbird chicken plucker. You're going to watch me unbox it. I'm just going to speed it up, and then you'll see us using it later in the video. If people want me to do a review or go through this unboxing footage a little slower, let me know in the comments. So another thing we tried on that first round was one of those pluckers that goes on a drill. And at least for us, that worked less than just doing it by hand. It just kind of broke off the feathers, and then you still had to pick out the little stumps that are left in the bird. So if you're not going to spring, this is just with my limited experience of doing 30 at this point, but if you're not going to spring for the actual tumbler plucker, it doesn't have to be a Yardbird, but one of these style bigger pieces, I would just do it by hand. That little drill attachment made it harder than just doing it by hand. Alright, this is the last warning and a quick show of our setup. It's on to slaughtering time. Alright, it's butcher time. I'm gonna grab one and we'll get it going. So we're just gonna grab you. Hey, give me your foot. Grab him by the feet. And then
we'll put them in the cone we just made. You just kind of lay them in there. You know, fish his little head out. So you want to grab his head, and then once you're doing this, you'll feel it. There's like the bone of their head, and then you want to cut right above it until you get a steady stream of blood like that, and then let them bleed out. And then they'll have their death throes. And then he's dead now. He might have death throes for another minute or so. But then you just leave him here to bleed out. So then you're going to let him drain for a minute. See, just death throes. That's why you want multiple kill cones. So you can get another one. So let him bleed out and we'll get another one. Pull it out. Sit right above that. Some people will cut both sides. So there's their esophagus that runs down the middle of their neck, and then there's a vein that brings blood to their vein, to their brain, and then out. That's what you're cutting. You don't want to cut all the way through their esophagus because you want them to pump all the blood out. That'll make the rest of the process easier. You can cut the whole head off right now if you're afraid that you're not going to hit the vein. You can cut the whole head off right now. I'll even just do it. So you can cut it all the way off right now, and it's not going to, like, find a spot. It's not going to matter. Cut the whole head off. So it'll drain better if you don't. Lift the hands off a little bit. Also, if you do that right, you won't get your hands as dirty if you cut them and hold it away. Alright. And then next, you're going to scald them. I got my water at 150, which is right what you want. And she didn't give me any, she did. Oh, you just need something to be able to push them down all the way. Well, actually, one step you can do in the middle is just to keep your water a little cleaner. You can spray them off first before you put them in your scalding water. Keep some of the blood. And these birds, they're pretty clean, but got some like poop from laying on poop and all that stuff. Alright. Then come over here. We're gonna dunk them in the hot water. One thing we don't have, you want to put soap in your water. It helps break the surface tension, and it'll help get the water get under their feathers better. I need to grab some after this one, but it'll work without it. So this, you kind of want to do it by feel. There's a couple ways I've heard to check, and I've done most of them. They seem to work. Is the skin on the feet will start to come off. That's one. And then there's these tail feathers on their butt are kind of the hardest ones to pull out. So like, if they don't, see, I had to like really yank on that. So we're gonna let it sit a little longer. I've even seen people say up to 4 or 5 minutes, but I think probably around a minute is what you're normally gonna have. And then another one that I've heard is these wing feathers, these big wing feathers. See, like those came right out. These butt feathers, still pretty tight. And the feet, starting, there you go. See, that's coming off. All right, we'll call that good. And then a little toasty to grab. All right. And then this part is new to me, so we're going to turn on the water. We're going to turn on the plucker and then put down in there. Much better. And then you get a clean, pretty bird. There's a couple, maybe I could have left it another second longer and these would have came out, but it's pretty good. All right, and even the feet, skin came off for the most part. And then we're gonna go over to our table. All right. So first we're gonna cut off the head now. And then right in here, there's their craw. You can kind of see it under there, that chunk that's not on this side. So you're just gonna pinch their skin and cut up. You always wanna cut up away from the bird so you don't nick any organs. So you can see esophagus, and then this thing, that's their craw.
So unfortunately, my zoomed in footage kind of cuts out right there. And then we're just doing a zoomed out view. I have more chicks right now, so maybe next time we harvest them, I'll get a better video of this. I also will know more. I don't know. I'm not really an expert. If anything, this video should go to show you that you could do it too. This is my first time ever butchering a chicken. And we did 30. Start to finish, bought chicks, did the whole process, just me and my wife and my friend. It's been pretty simple for just stuff you can get at you can buy everything you need and the chickens at the farm store in one go. It's not that expensive either. But I could talk through it real quick and you can kind of see me doing it over and over in the background. So basically you cut out that craw and then I would cut the necks off. You don't actually have to do that, but you just want to loosen up the craw and the esophagus. And then you go around to the back, kind of where you reach in the chicken, just like when you get one from the grocery store. And you want to just pinch and cut up back there too. And then just pull the skin apart from there. You don't want to be poking your knife in the chicken at any point when it still has guts in it, because you don't want to pop anything in there. You don't want to pop any guts in there and just have all that contamination in your meat. So you don't want to pop any organs. So basically you're just going to cut that and you're just going to stick your hand in there and scoop it all out. Everything should come out in one pull, besides the kidneys kind of stick in there and the lungs stick up in there. And you'll get, it really just takes a feel for it. So the kidneys you'll see with your eyes, but the lungs will be way up in there and you won't really be able to see them. You'll just kind of have to scoop against the ribs. So just kind of scoop until you feel ribs if you're worried about getting the lungs off. It also depends on what you're doing with them. If you're doing them for yourselves and you're just going to like rotisserie them or something, you're not going to be eating what's in there. Or if you're going to part them out, it really doesn't matter. But just do that just in case. So we were keeping the gizzards. So if you're going to keep those, you got to cut them in half and clean them and then rip that lining out. We were keeping the feet as well. So you got to cut the nails off of the feet. And then the skin. So our plucker ended up doing a pretty good job at ripping the skin off the feet. What else were we doing? And then you can see my friend Austin there. He was my plucker helper. I think that one had an issue, so he had to pluck on that one for a while. Our scalder temperature went down. You want it to be around 150, I think. But if it gets too low or if it gets too high, just wait. Don't try to do it and leave it longer. I think the temperature was lower and we tried to leave it longer and it just didn't really work. So make sure you have the temperature good. Trying to think what else. And then we also kept the hearts and the livers. The gallbladder is attached to the liver. And then you need to cut that out, but don't cut it actually. Just use your fingers and tear it because you really don't want to pop that, or you gonna probably just want to throw the liver away if you do. And then cutting the legs or the feet off the legs is pretty simple. You just kind of bend them up towards you or away from you. Just make that joint exposed and you can cut into it from both sides. Once you get really used to it, you can just slide your knife all the way through the top and it'll come right through. You just got to find the right spot. You should never have to break any bones for slaughtering or butchering. You should never have to break a bone on a chicken, really. You just kind of got to pop them out of the joint and then you can cut in the joint. And then just spray off the chickens. And then we have this trash can on the right is filled with ice and we're putting them in there overnight. You want to cool down the temperature of the chicken as fast as possible. So that's just filled up with ice and water and you want to get it chilled as fast as possible. Now we're going to go into butchering.
Okay, so today we're going to show how to butcher a chicken. We raise these chickens here. They're Cornish cross. They're probably around 4 or 5 pounds. But this is the same as any chicken you'll get at the grocery store. So I'm going to part it out into its 5 parts. We're going to do boneless breast, drumsticks, boneless thighs, wings, and then just the carcass. All right. Okay, you're going to start with taking the legs off. So you're just going to kind of cut through the skin right here. And then if you really get in there, you can see it's just kind of open now. So I'm just going to pull this back and just pop that bone out of the socket. You'll feel it. And then come on this side. We're just going to cut along the bottom of here. You're just going to cut the leg and the thigh off together. See, and here's the end of that bone that's broken. So you don't break the bone, but it should pop out of that socket. And then you should be able to cut it all the way across. So if you were just doing quarters, there it is. And then we'll do that to the other side. Just cut the skin. See, and you don't have to cut all the way down. You just have to cut the skin. And then the rest just kind of opens up like that. So we're just gonna open that up. And then you'll be able to feel the joint. It's right there, and then it pops. See? The bone doesn't break, it just pops out of that socket. And then try to make it face towards you. And then we'll just cut this off of the bird. Okay, there's those. And then we'll take the wings off. So you just want to cut like around this joint. So the wing's a little more delicate, so I like to cut around the joint first. Make sure you don't cut up into the breast too much. So cut around it a little bit, and then the same thing, you just pop it out of the socket right here. There's the bottom of that bone. And then you can cut. So you shouldn't have to break any bones, you shouldn't need a bone saw or anything. It should just pop out. And then we'll do the other wing. So grab the wing, cut onto this little shoulder part here. Cut all the way around it. And then we're gonna take it and we're gonna pop it. Pop it out of its socket. Wing. Okay. Now we're gonna take the skin off the breast. It's a lot easier. You can leave it on. I've done a couple that way. But it's a lot easier to cut them off the bone if there's no skin in the way. So the skin just peels off pretty much. You can cut it to make sure it goes smoothly, but should just kind of peel off. Some of these little side pieces will get stuck, but just pop them. And then there's your piece of skin. All right. So I don't know. This is the way I like to do it, is this. So once you cut one all the way off, it's kind of hard to do this, so I like to do both sides at the same time. So we're just going to cut down a little bit, right up against this bone. There's a bone that makes like a pyramid, kind of. It's almost like a collapsed pyramid, and it sits on this ledge. So you're gonna cut down in there. If you ever filleted a fish, it's really similar to filleting a fish. So we're gonna cut down in there, but we're gonna do it on both sides. And I'll show you that bone better once it's out, and you can see what you're cutting against. So now that we've got both sides, we're just gonna keep going. So we're gonna try to follow the curve. Now that you you'll pretty much hit a bottom, and then you gotta like curve your knife to kind of fillet the meat off of there. And then we'll come around the front and do the same thing. Just kind of cut around some of this neck cartilage and stuff. Fillet. See, now you can kind of see that bone comes down and kind of curves out. And we're just gonna take all this meat off. And then once that's pretty much all the way down to the bottom, then you're just gonna cut it off, the bird. Just cut along the edge. See, it's fine if you cut too much. There's some, like, see, there's a little bit of bone there. We'll just take that and we'll cut it out. It's better to take too much and then cut it out than do the opposite. All right, there's your breast. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. See what I'm saying? It's kind of hard to hold it and get it started, so it's easier if it's already kind of started. So you're just gonna turn your knife and you just wanna follow the bone. Follow the bone down. And once you can get a good grip on the meat, kind of follow the bone down. And then you can even just fillet it all the way off from this side. Once you get so far, it's kind of easier to pick it up and cut it off. So there's your carcass. See, in the sun, you can see light through it. That means there's not much meat there. Did a pretty good job. There's not really much on there. Clean these up a little bit. You just cut that whole little chunk off. There's little pieces there. This is just fat, but you can clean them up, make them look a little prettier. Okay. So there's those pieces. You got your wings, your breasts. All right, now we'll cut these up. So if you wanted them in quarters, you would just stop here. But if you want to part the drumstick and the thigh, so hold them up like this. So here's the angle. You want to hold it up, and you can kind of see a little divot in here. This takes some feeling. This is the 5th one I've done today. So you just want to go right in the middle and just cut down. And if you do it right, you'll cut all the way through. And you'll go through the joint, but not cut any bones. So if you hit like a bone, it'll stop you, and you'll just have to maneuver around it. But you should cut through there. So now you have a thigh and a drumstick, but if you want to go further and debone your thigh, you just cut on top of the bone, just right on top, like find it, it goes from here to there. You can see both ends, you can also feel it real easy. So you cut on top and then you just kind of dig around it. So I think it's easier to come from both sides. So like cut that side and then you can press your fingers on one side and just dig in there. But with your fingers creating a little tension, it'll come off there a little easier. So you just want to kind of work at it from the other side. And then once you get it like half off like that, you can get under it. So you just poke under the bone and you can cut out the side. So yeah, I think I missed, no? Yeah. There's a little piece of bone in there. That usually doesn't happen, but it happens sometimes. And we'll just cut that out. All right, so now it's just the center bone. And then once you cut one side, you can kind of peel it back. So now it's on one side, and then you're just gonna peel it. Just like that, and then you cut the bone out. And then there's no, you can even feel it just to make sure, but there shouldn't be anything in there because it's all one bone. We'll do the same thing with this one. And we'll cut down right there. There's your drumstick. And then we'll do the same thing with this one. So we'll do our first cut just kind of straight down, right on top of the bone, and then use your fingers to create a little pressure. Switch back and forth different sides if you have to. trying to save as much meat as possible. If you're not worried about saving too much meat, you don't have to be as particular, but I'm trying to get good at this. We're gonna try to sell some of these. All right, I'm gonna come from the other side. All right, so it's pretty far out. And then we're gonna come from under and pop that out. And there's that little fragment I got. All right, now that you got one side out, just pick it up, use your knife, kind of bend it out, and then cut it off. All right. And then I left the skin on. Obviously, the skin would just tear right off right now. So then you got your thighs, your drumsticks, your breasts, and your couple wings. And then an extra skin piece and a carcass. So I'll do the next one, but I'll just go through it quickly and you can just follow along. I'm not gonna talk anymore over that one. All right, hopefully that helped. Broke a bunch of ribs. But that does not matter.
Alright, we're coming to the end of the video. Hopefully you found this video helpful. We already have chicks and we're going to be doing this again, so I can make some better videos coming up, and then I can also put some more things I've learned. Like I said, this is our first 30. We got 60 more chicks, so we're doing twice as many. I'll have the expertise of the first 30 to either maybe change our setup, or honestly things went pretty smooth. There's not too much I would change, but we'll see if I think of any more tips and tricks in between now and then I'll put them in the next video. Also, I might release these videos separately, so you could reference just the butchering part, and if you don't need the whole everything, if you need to refer back to it. I know every time I like go to butcher a rabbit or maybe even a chicken, next time I'll probably refer to somebody else's video and just get a refresher to make sure I'm doing it right. If you have the resource of YouTube to look stuff up, I don't know why you wouldn't use it. But anyway, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.